All right. I'm going to take a few minutes to remember what we've done over the last few weeks. Sit all the way down. Okay. Think about ever since we started geometry. Okay, now geometry is everything all the way back to this right here. Okay. All right. So help us remember what all this stuff is. Let's get it back in our head. Right again?
A point is like a dot and like where you want to start.
Okay. Or just a location, anywhere that you want to locate, or find. Okay. One little spot. All right. And we know that, all those little spots together, if I have a bunch of them, they're going to create a line. Okay. What about a line segment? Mason?
It's a line that ends.
Okay. It's a piece of a line, isn't it? It has ending points. So it's not a piece of line that would go on forever. All right. Well, Will, what's a line then?
It's just a line that goes on in both directions.
In both directions. And it could go on forever, couldn't it? Okay. Well, what's a ray? Yeah.
A ray is where a point is on one end and then an arrow is on the other end and one end never stops going.
Okay. So it has one end point and it could go in the other direction forever. All right. So if that's a ray, what is this? Or how is this made? Okay. An angle. All right. What did we say a long time ago? Yeah. What do you remember?
Is it just a line with just two arrows?
It's not just a line, because think about what an angle looks like. It's not just a, most of the time it's not. Okay. What do we remember? Yeah.
It's made up of rays?
Yeah, exactly. It's two rays that have come together at their endpoint. They're sharing that endpoint and going in two different directions like this. Okay. One ray might be going here, the other here. One of them might be going here. One of them might be going here, It's depending on the size and the angle. Who remembers when we first started talking about angles, we realized that angles are measuring a piece of a what? Of a circle. Okay? It's measuring how big that piece is open, isn't it? And how do we measure angles? With what little type of measurement?
Yeah. Protractor.
Well, that's the tool we use, but what's the unit of measure? I guess that's the way to say it. Yeah. Degrees. Okay, but we do use a protractor to figure out how many degrees that an angle is open. And what's the symbol for degrees? What do we write when we are trying to show, I'm talking about degrees? Yeah?
A small circle.
That itty bitty little circle. Now you use that same little itty bitty circle when you're talking about degrees for like temperature and that kind of thing, but temperature degrees and angle degrees, are they the same thing?
No.
No, very different. Very different. And because they're different, I'm surprised that we use that same little symbol, but we do. All right, so that kind of started us off with geometry. And then we got into talking about angles and their sizes and all this. Okay? Well, if I flip the page, it's going to give you all the answers. So I'm going to ask you before I flip the page. What are the different kinds of angles that we've talked about? Brandon, what's one of them? Think about the different, and it's usually having to do with their size. Okay?
Acute angle.
Okay. And we talked about a cute little angle. It's a cute because it's what? What do you remember about its size?
It's smaller than a right angle.
Smaller than a right angle, and a right angle, let's just go there next. Acute angles are smaller than right angles. Right angles are what?
90 degrees.
Okay, I'm looking right here. Okay, are what?
90 degrees.
They're exactly 90 degrees. Okay, a lot of the other angles that we're talking about are not an exact number, but that one is, isn't it? There's at least one more, but that one's 90 degrees. Okay, so acute is smaller than 90. What other angles? Faith, what's another one? Obtuse, which means what? It's bigger than 90 degrees. Miss Terry in our other class, she always goes, obtuse. To remember that it's bigger, like I guess opening her face or her mouth bigger, obtuse. She'll do that real big. to help us remember that it's bigger than 90. Okay, what else? There's at least a few more out there. What do you remember? Okay, we're getting there in just a minute. Because that's not really our angles, that's just some lines. But hold on to that thought. We'll get there in just a second. Alright, so acute, right, obtuse.
Oh,
No, don't say it. What?
triangle.
Straight angle is how many degrees? Now this is another one that's an exact number. What?
108.
180. And see these numbers, 90, 180, these are some very important numbers to know. Okay? The one of the videos that we watched one day talked about 45 simply because it's halfway.
Mhm.
It's half of a 90-degree angle. Alright, so we get here. Now, we didn't really do much with it in class, but in our lines and angles and lines in our Go Noodle, when they got past 180, how big were those angles?
Reflex.
Those are called reflex angles, and they're usually somewhere between like 180 and 270. 270 is our next kind of big number. We just don't talk a lot about it in fourth grade. If we had the full rotation, how many degrees is that? Everybody?
360.
360, and that's a big, big important number to know. Okay? So, I'm going to ask you a question. If I had an angle, I want you to tell me what fraction this angle measurement would be. Okay? If I had, let me just use a number we've already said. If I had a 45-degree angle, how could I write that as a fraction? Now remember, fraction is a part. You know, the top number is usually the part that you have, and the bottom number is usually the whole thing. So if I had a 45-degree angle, what would my fraction that goes with that look like? What do you think?
45. 360.
45 360th. Now I just want everybody to look at that and think for a minute. I just wrote down what he said. Do you agree with that? Does this, if I have a 45-degree angle, which is about that size right there, and I know I haven't measured it or used a straight edge, is this 45 and the whole 360? Do you agree with him?
Yeah.
Do you not agree with him? I agree with him. Okay, and that's exactly right. What if you had a 1-degree angle? What would it be?
160.
There's our unit fraction. Remember us talking about unit fractions and they all had a 1 as a numerator?
You got so hard. You kept asking people, do you agree with Martin? This is hard.
I let it go on for a little while there. Well, if you think about any angle, the total number of degrees is 360. So if you're asked to put it as a fraction, just know that's always going to be the denominator. Yes. Okay. All right. So just trying to think through. I don't need that. I need that. Just trying to think through this type of stuff. We've been talking about it in a little different way, adding in some of our other things like fractions that we've had. All right. So we've got all of these, and then some. There's our right, our acute, obtuse, straight, and we even talked about the reflex angle in there. All right, now we're getting to what Alex was talking about just a second ago. All right, these are not angles. These are lines, okay? Now, I can't remember which one you were actually saying.
Just saying parallel.
Parallel? Can you tell us a little bit about parallel lines?
Parallel lines are lines that the same size.
Okay, you are so close to what you need to say. We need to change it just a little bit. All right, and you're even showing it to us. All right, parallel lines. When they show it in the Go Noodle, our arms go like this, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Because these lines are how far apart?
The line 100.
What do you?
100.
Doesn't have to do with degree. What do you want to say? Help her out.
The lines don't intersect.
Okay, the lines never touch each other. They never intersect, but they don't Because they are always, what?
Straight.
They're always straight, but they're always the same distance apart. And that's what makes them parallel. Because if I have two lines, and it's up here near my hands, they're like, say, 3 inches apart. But down
Like
by
this.
my elbows, if they're farther apart, they're not going to be straight. They're going to be like that, aren't they? And eventually they'll cross each other. Yeah. They'll intersect. I'm glad you added that word. That word needs to be added to this chart. Yes. So we've got parallel lines that will never bump into each other. Okay. Now, how far apart? They can be far apart, or they can be close together, as long as they're always the same distance. Okay. All right. What about perpendicular lines then? Hide it. I don't know where it is behind me. Okay.
You got it.
What about perpendicular lines, Valerie? They form right angles. Okay, it's two lines that intersect. Or, now look, they can cross each other, or they can just meet. Because think about a rectangle. The other day we're like, rectangles have right angles, and they, the perpendicular lines and all this. But their lines don't cross each other, they just meet at a corner, don't they? Okay? So the lines can meet, because look, if they kept going, they would cross each other, wouldn't they? Okay? But they form right angles. That's really important about perpendicular lines. Now, I think it was Mason that said intersecting lines. You can have lines that intersect, and they're not perpendicular. This X right here, yeah. I don't have any right angles. No right angles right here.
You have obtuse, except you do.
Yeah, I have acute and obtuse angles. Huh. I'm going to leave this up here. Because let's say that this was angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D. I'll just make it simple. What is that rule? While we have some lines that look like this, what is our rule that we learned about some of these angles? Okay, that really helps you out. Bailey, what do you remember?
Whatever the one like on this side is, if the opposite of it, it's gonna be the same.
All right, you're exactly right. So can you name two angles that are exactly the same? Right over here. What two letters?
A and C.
Okay, so A and C are exactly the same size because they're opposite each other. What are two other angles that are exactly the same size? And I don't even have to measure them. I just know. It's just a rule.
B and D.
B and D would be exactly the same size. Even if, let's say, angle D was cut into two pieces, these two pieces would equal what that one piece was. Because both of these together are opposite here, okay? All right. I'll throw that in while we were looking at those lines. All right, so let's move on. We're almost to the end of this. We talked about shapes for a while. We started off by talking about triangles. And there are some special types of triangles. You can group triangles either by the size of their angles or the size of their sides. Okay? So what are some types of triangles? What's one of them? Isosceles. You remember what it means?
Two sides are the same.
2 sides are the same with isosceles. What's another kind?
Equally triangle.
Equilateral.
Equilateral.
Okay? And that means what?
They're all equal.
All the side lengths are equal. What's another one?
Scalene.
Scalene. Okay? Which means what?
Right? No.
No, because these are sides.
One side. No.
We've had 2 sides be equal. We've had all 3 be equal.
No sides are equal.
No sides are equal. Okay? All right, so that's all the side. That's all the things that go with the sides. What about with the angles? What about with the angles? Now, one we've got to know in 4th grade is what? Mason? Okay. Not the one that I was thinking of, but that definitely works. Obtuse. What can you tell me about an obtuse triangle?
There's only like one obtuse angle in a triangle.
It has one obtuse angle. And so if it's there, you automatically know that's an obtuse triangle. With something else.
And in every angle there's two angles.
Well, every angle is an acute angle. If it's an acute triangle, every single angle is acute. All right? What's our last one? The right triangle. We've got to be able to spot that because what does it have in it somewhere? It has a right angle. And it can only have one because if it has more than one, the sides won't meet. Okay? All right. Because how many degrees do all of the angles in a triangle add up to be? Be careful. 180. Every single triangle, the angles add up to 180. So think about it. If I have 90 here and 90 here, that's already 180. There's not enough degrees left for another angle. So a triangle can only have one right angle. Okay. All right, man, you guys are flying through all this stuff.
Yeah, it's easy.
Okay. It's not difficult. It's just a lot to remember sometimes. Okay. So there's our different types of triangles. Now we took a step beyond triangles last week. What did we mention? And I know that remembering all of this next stuff is difficult. I'm not asking you to, but what do you remember? Quadrilaterals. How many sides does a quadrilateral have?
4.
Think of the prefix quad. It has 4. Yeah. Okay. A rhombus is a quadrilateral. Do you remember any of the others? Yeah.
Triangle.
It has 3 sides.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. Tri, quad. So try to let that prefix help you. Yeah. Keep going. Okay. There's a square.
Ooh.
Rhombus. Square. What's another one?
Rectangle.
Rectangles. And I know we might not remember every little thing about every one of these because there's a lot of little details. But if we could just remember the names. We'll start with a T. Trapezoid. No, let's start with a P. And this one had 2 sets of parallel lines. Parallelogram. Say parallel and then ogram. Parallelogram. Okay. Okay. Now, it's important that we remember all of those things, and we're going to kind of do an activity right now. We don't have as long, but we're going to do something that hopefully you will have used most of these things, okay? Let me put it on the board. I'm just going to try to do my best to do this quickly so you have some time, okay? All right. Okay. So I'm going to hand you, we've almost made it through a whole year of school.
Yeah, there's like 5.
And so by now, I would need to remember that these go in the machine on the side. I do most days. I do okay most days.
What machine? The computer. The computer.
All right. So, geometry creatures. Okay, you're just going to move around a little bit there. All right, so it's doubled on there. I'm just trying to make it a little bigger. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a sheet of blank paper. I originally thought this would be fun to measure things, draw things, cut them out, pictures, everything, glue them on some other paper, but then I realized, wait, we've got short classes, so I can't do that. But, so I tried to make kind of a shorter version of this. So you're going to get just a blank sheet of paper. Before you ever put one thing on the paper, I want you to do some brainstorming. Guys, please sit up and get out of your desks. I'm sure you have some fascinating things in there. But it's time to listen and put your eyes up here. All right. So you're going to create either an animal. I want you to think of an actual animal, not a made-up one. Okay? Well, sometimes we do get to do that, and we will with some other things. But this time I thought, let's try to really make this a real thing. Okay? So either an animal or an insect, either one. Now that's a lot of things you can pick from. That's any animal that flies, that walks on the land, that swims in the sea, any creature like that. Now you're going to make it out of shapes. So it is okay if your creature looks a little squarish or rectangle-ish. We're going to use our imaginations to know that they are, these creatures, okay? That's okay. Now, how are you going to do this and also include this these things that we call geometry. You're going to make them out of shapes, lines, and or angles. And I tried to give you a list of everything we've just talked about. I'm going to tear these off and spread them out so you can also see these a little bit better, okay? As you go, you might want to put a check mark by some of these just to, hey, I use that. You know, try to use some of all of these things, okay? If you're doing a bug and let's say let's say you give it a face, no, and then you give it
That looks like my face.
some. You got to do the antenna. Well, couldn't your antenna be an acute angle?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Or it could be intersecting lines.
up here. Sure, it could. Okay. You know, make the body.
A square. It's a mouse.
But think about 6 legs. An insect has 6 legs. Those all could be angles. You know, here's an angle. Here's an
Oh,
angle.
they actually could.
Here's an angle. You see what I'm talking about? Okay. No, I don't know if I can allow those in my room.
Stop.
Okay.
A spider.
Now, I'm not going to leave this up here because I want you to have your own thought and your own creation.
Spears.
But like if you're going, I don't know how to do an animal. Well, shh. Okay, let's get quiet for a second. If you have a lion, and they're not typically green, but that's okay. This is my green lion. And I want to make his mane. Here's my isosceles triangles all over it. See what I'm He kind of looks like a sunshine. Here's my lion named Sunshine. But anyway, here's my equilateral triangle. You know, here for his nose. Here's my. I'm gonna make some whiskers. So here's some angles.
You could do parallel lines.
You definitely. Oh yeah.
I saw
3 parallel lines on both sides would be perfect whiskers. So kind of take what you can picture for these creatures and use shapes. I used to tell folks we'd get ready to draw something and they'd be like, I don't know how to draw that. And I would like tell them, start with your basic shapes. You know, kind of make the body kind of a rectangle shape, and then if you need to curve the edges, but we're not curving the edges. We're going to let it look like a rectangle this time. Okay? So, have fun with it, but I also want you to do your very best. This is not just, I get to draw a creature. This is, I've got to include as many of these things as I possibly can. Okay? All right, so let me hand you, I've given you a sheet. I'll leave it up here, but so if you want to check these off, and you know, you can. I'm going to hand you that first because right now I want you to be kind of planning in your mind what you might be drawing. If you need scratch paper to kind of sketch this out a little first before you start just drawing it. And guess what else I'm going to put on your desk and I'm going to ask you to use? This is going to frustrate some of you. A straight edge. Oh, a straight edge. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yay!
What
are you doing?
Got one positive yay.
Yay.
Did you? I didn't hear it. Okay. Did I miss anybody?
Oh, sorry.
All right. I am going to bring you a straight edge to make most of these lines as straight as you can. Okay. If you're drawing a circle, you're not going to have a straight edge on that one. You're just going to do the best you can. You know? It's going to go like this. You just like.
I thought we had to use
I gotta practice circles.
If you need a circle in there every now and then, that's okay.
Oh,
okay. All right, so the way Martin just said that, maybe you're thinking, I can't use something that's not up there. Like if you need a circle every now and then, that's fine. But most of your creature should be one of those things, okay?
I need to draw a spider. I'm gonna draw a couple. You can draw me.
All right, we have only about 20 minutes, so we're going to have to work a little fast.
I saw a lion yesterday.
If we don't have this word,
I saw a big lion yesterday. He wanted to eat my lion.
I might tomorrow, but very few. So right now it's all about drawing. If you get completely 100% done, let me see it. We can add some color at that point. Did I give you two? See, I'm Would it help you to have this on your page, on your? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, that
Would it help you to see these quadrilaterals so you can know how they look?
Yeah, that was my best friend.
You're gonna be busy talking and your time's gonna go. This will help you if you need this shape.
I know what I'm drawing.
I'm trying
Always gotta forget somebody. Gage, you can feel better. I left Valerie at this time. Okay. I'm bringing these around so you can see what these shapes look like. How do you draw them? Square, but like. Make sure it's an animal or an insect.
Monkey.
Okay.
What?
Dude, you can draw me.
That's a wrong.
Y'all can draw me. If you're you swim. I do. Oh yeah, I do.
I'm just putting some shapes together. Think about what shapes could you put together? And what could they possibly look like?
I need to eat. Can we do an oval?
Can you do an oval?
Wait, can I draw you
I'll
with?
group that with circles. Not a lot of them, but if you need a little bit of that, that's fine.
I just draw it. Yeah.
You're just trying to mostly use what's on
Miss Wendy, can I draw myself?
No people. These are not people. These are animals or insects.
I know that's
No.
Can I draw a speeder? What? Spider? A speeder?
If you really want a spider, that's fine.
Is it human animal?
No. Good try though. She said it's a human animal count.
I like a pig.
Y'all gonna y'all the clock is ticking.
We're like, I know.
Human
I've already
animal.
done mine.
This is to help you if you need to see the shapes.
I've already done mine.
Start to draw triangles, but you need to make these more.
I think it's
In like actual triangles.
It's a regular Minecraft.
I don't know what to do with the wings. Can I use that? Do you mind me showing that? Okay, listen. She is doing a fantastic job right here of drawing a turtle. Okay, listen. Do you see how she made her arms look like the real arms? And I said, okay, this is a great opportunity. Take those off and turn those into just triangles. Your creature is going to look a little different because I'm asking you to draw this as more shapes, not like they really look. Okay?
Spider leg is this?
That's why I said you might want to sketch this on some practice paper
That's what I'm
first. Because this is going to be big. It needs to be on the whole paper. Okay?
This big. This is Is this big enough? It's a what? Yeah. I made a squid.
I'll let you have one.
I'm making a jelly. I was making a jellyfish until it swam away. Can I make a blobfish?
It is, but it'd be hard with all these straight lines you gotta draw.
They're kind of weird looking.
They're very curvy, and we don't have a lot of curvy.
Can you make a giraffe? I'm drawing a jelly.
Alright, so I'm gonna turn this off.
What's that?
A fish.
We're gonna keep going.